Alright, here we are at the bottom of page 1 in section 1.5. And let's try some of these. I attempted to keep that little same sign, some, different signs, different little description up there for reference on the screen, but you should have them in your notes as a reference as well, but just in case you're skipping around the videos. So let's try number 16 together here. -4 plus a -6. Okay, both negative, so I see a negative and a negative. And again, I'm adding. Okay, so that's why this works. You're adding. And we'll talk about subtraction in the next section, but really there's no new rules for subtraction. Different teachers, different books teach this in different ways, but for me it just simplifies life. If you know how to make subtraction into addition, then you've already got the rules down after this section. Okay, so both negative, that means they're the same signs, and that means I'm going to find the sum. I'm going to add these two numbers together. So I'm just going to take the numbers. Now I'm going to ignore the signs for just a moment. Just drop down the numbers 4 and 6, add those together, and I get 10. Okay? And then I reattach the sign. In fact, notice how the pink up here for difference says keep the bigger sign. You really could keep the bigger sign both times, right? Because then you don't have to memorize a different rule. Same sum, different difference, keep the bigger sign. So what's the bigger number? 6. There, it's negative. I'll keep that negative. Okay? So the answer here is going to be -10. So we keep the bigger sign. And I'll put bigger in quotes because it's attached to the bigger number. -6 is really less than amount than -4, but we're just talking about in terms of the actual, like the absolute value, the distance. There you go. We're able to use something we learned today. Okay, now let's do this one. 13 plus a -5. Well, there's nothing in front of the 13 when there isn't. That's a positive. Okay, we're just saving ink, saving paper there, okay? We're adding, and then here is a negative. So we've got one positive number, one negative number, so the signs are different, which means that we're going to find the difference. We're going to be subtracting. So I pull down the numbers. I ignore the signs for just a moment. 13 and 5 is all I pull down. I subtract them. 13 minus 5 is 8. And then I keep the bigger sign. Okay? This one is the bigger sign. And I should have noted that on the last one too. Let me scoot back over here. This one is the bigger sign. Okay? Although it doesn't matter when they're the same, because no matter which one you pick, that's going to be your sign. The bigger sign is positive, so this answer is +8. Or you can just write it as 8. Okay? So talk it through with somebody or just out loud to yourself. Make sure you copy. If you have any questions you want to note, then go ahead and try this one, -7 plus 3. Pause the video so you have a chance, and then I'll reveal the answer. Okay, number 22 should give you an answer of -4. And we'll go over tries in class, plus any other questions you might have, hit some of the highlights. Now, what do you notice that's coming up here on these other couple of problems? Well, now we're involving fractions and decimals. So my little reminder here is no fear, okay? Fractions, decimals, bring it, okay? We can do this. The rules don't change. Once again, we're in it. Chapter 1 is going to be a no calculator exam. So you want to get the practice in, and if you're struggling a little bit, please make sure you get some extra help. Me or the Student Learning Center, and extra practice because it's going to help build your confidence on this. Okay? But the rules don't change here. I'm adding, so that means I start looking at signs. I look at both of them here. I've got a positive. How do I know? Nothing there, so it's a positive. Negative, because that's what's in front here. So I'm going to, they're different, which means I'm going to subtract. I'm going to find the difference. Okay? So that means I take those numbers here, 7/10 minus 2/5, and I'm going to need to convert to get a like denominator here. So that means the least common denominator is going to be 10. So 7/10 the way I convert the 2/5 is I'm going to multiply top and bottom by 2, which is really just multiplying by a 1. So I'm not changing the value, I'm just changing the look of it so that I can easily work in that world of fractions, okay? So that ends up 7/10 minus 2 times 2 is 4 over the 10. We set it up to be like denominators. And that finally gives me 3/10. Oh, I'm cutting into my other space, sorry. And then I look to keep the bigger number. Well, you have to, this is going to require skill from earlier here. Hard for me to tell which one's bigger, 7/10 or 2/5. That's why showing my work is going to be a huge help here. 7/10 and 4/10. The 7/10 is the bigger. And it originally was positive, so my final answer is going to be positive. Positive 3/10. And I was just having so much fun, apparently I wasn't watching my space. So I'm going to do this decimal one over here out to the side. So on this one, negative 6.3 plus 5.2, I've got a negative plus a positive. Again, the signs are different, which means I'm going to subtract. So I'm going to ignore the signs for a minute and just take the 6.3 and the 5.2 and I'm going to subtract it. And it's always the big minus the small. Okay, the big number minus the small number. And I should also highlight for myself, this is the bigger sign here. So I know my answer is going to be negative when it's all said and done. 6.3 minus 5.2, if you need to line this up vertically, that might be helpful for some people. You need to align your decimals. This is definitely a Math 20 concept here. 3 minus 2 is 1, 6 minus 5 is 1. The decimal just comes straight down, okay? You don't need to line it up with multiplying and dividing decimals, but you have to line it up with adding and subtracting because you have to get the place values to match so it makes sense that you're adding and subtracting. It's kind of like terms. I can't add tenths to whole numbers, so you got to line it up. So 1.1 is my answer. I attach the bigger sign here, so it's going to be negative 1.1. And then here's one for you to try, number 36. Go ahead and hit pause so that you have a chance to work this out, maybe talk it through on the fractions, decimals, then we'll reveal the answer. Okay, you should have gotten on number 36, negative 25 over 24. And again, we'll hit all the tries completely in class and bring your questions and any comments, especially if you have a method that's different than the number line or the what I'm using here on the notes, the same in different signs. Love to hear it. See it in action.